completely honest with you. I had to do this video for the world, for the United States, and for the taxpayer. I couldn't stop myself. So on behalf of that, let me get the intro started. Here we go. All right. That was Bop. It was a special. Let me get my camera on here real quick. That was a special request from a fan. Maybe not so much a fan anymore. More of a challenge, saying I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't play Bop acoustic version before my show. And I said, challenge accepted. I have no choice but to do it now. Oh, God. Let's... I know that's never gonna go away. If that doesn't push you out of this show, nothing else will. So let's see here. Let's get the party started. Where is my react button? Then we will talk about this. For 1 second here. All right.
Hey.
What?
You are not Kevin Costner.
That is correct. I am not Kevin Costner. This is Sage, and this is the out of control stealth mode. Sage, I have absolutely no idea how we got on this topic show at this point. So, actually, I do. And just so everybody knows, I am wearing my my earpiece in regards to the sheep situation. Let me do this real quick so you can see this. Let me turn this on. So I too am applying for an application of wearing my earpiece. It's not, well, to you it's on the reverse ear, but it's on the right ear. And either way. So I've got my earpiece on. I'm wearing my over the ear just like the sheeples. I thought that was funny. In regards to the everybody at the dude, you can't make this stuff up. Like, you literally can't make this stuff up. At the RNC, everybody decided that they needed to wear this year's new Trump over-the-ear earbuds. These are special mono earbuds instead of stereo. You only wear one, and that way, when everybody is wearing them, you don't look as stupid. So I was able to help them out, and I fixed the photo for them, and I did that. All right. This topic actually came up in a debate that I had with somebody from, I think, Badlands Media, or she's on a Badlands Media show, or she's with somebody with Badlands Media. And you guys all know that Badlands Media puts out some ridiculousness. And I thought this was the funniest freaking thing I've ever heard. Like, it literally converts smart people into dumb people. And that was called the fair tax. And I'm like, I can't not do a show on this. This is hysterical. This is funny. Because it amazingly takes, and maybe you've heard of this, maybe you've not heard of this. I don't know. We're going to find out. But it literally takes people who will think one way for an extended period of time, and once you put the word fair in front of it, you can pretty much do anything. Now, I call it the fairy tale tax, but you literally can take people that think one way, think capitalism, understand supply and demand, understand human behavior, understand all this stuff, and the minute you say fair tax, they completely go numb to the brain. They completely go numb to the brain. Now, in the beginning, I was tactically going against this fair tax, and I'm going to explain why and what it is and everything in a moment. But the more I think about it, the more I think I want the fair tax, because I will never pay taxes again if that's the case. It will literally allow me to never pay taxes again. And it will allow me to open up a business where I can teach other people how to never pay taxes again. But just saying. I'm just saying. So, like I said, this came up in a conversation. It was in an X space where most of these ridiculous things pop up nowadays as X spaces. It's like X spaces has become one level above Telegram voice chat things. It's about one level up. YouTube is still the craziness, but when it comes to people and echo chambering and stuff, X spaces is becoming one level up. So I find it kind of funny. And then the more extreme things go with the closer we get to an election, the more and more crazier people are in these spaces, which that's go figure. So like I said, I wanted to do this one early in the morning and just kind of leave it out there and leave it on YouTube. I'm on Twitch, X, what am I on here? YouTube and Rumble. And I'm just going to kind of leave them up because I think that this should be something people should see. So we were in an X space, and somebody came in, and we started talking, or they started talking about the fair tax, and explained that the fair tax does a bunch of things. Now, some of the purpose of the fair tax is we get rid of all other taxes. And I got a video here. We're going to kind of go over this and see where this might go awry. We get rid of all other taxes and abolish the IRS. We just get rid of the IRS. It's gone. It's all gone. We don't need them anymore. We don't need their enforcement anymore. All the people that work for the IRS are gone. And all we do, and I'm going to round up, because the person in the space said it was actually like 28.5 or something. But for the purposes of this video, and the fact that I'm only have one earphone on, I'm going to go ahead and round up to 30%, because 30% is a much easier number, and we're not going to do all the math and everything with a 28.5. So I'm just going to round up. So let's just call it a fair tax inflationary aspect of 30%. So now we know we do in a consumption tax, they call it. A tax that every time you buy something new, you pay 30%. On every single thing you buy, all the goods you buy, you pay 30% tax to the government on everything you buy. Okay? You with me? Is everybody with me? I know you're seeing the downside right now for this, but hold on. Just hold those thoughts. Let me walk you through this. We might be looking at this all wrong, okay? We might be looking at this all wrong. Now, business-to-business expenses, if you have a business, you pay no tax. If you buy something used, you pay no tax. So only when you buy something new, you have to pay a 30% tax. Y'all with me? Are you with me? All right. Let's dive into this. So I'm going to play this video. It's called Freedom from the IRS. Good start. And a fair tax. And I love the word fair. I mean, everything in life should be fair. Even though we're saying it shouldn't be fair, nothing in life's fair. Now, conservatives and people that I believed were Republicans are now saying we should throw out all the other fairs, but the fair tax, that's a fair I can go into it. We can go into. All right, let's do this. Did I even bring anything to drink? Oh, I didn't. I might have to get something to drink. Oh, just so you know, I am wearing my doctor's uniform with my body armor and my ear guard. All right.
Take down only 5.
I'm going to do this at 1.5 speed because I can't listen to this any slower than that. I truly can't.
135 members of Congress. We could do it enacting the fair tax. The fair tax is just that. It's fair. It's flatter. It's finite. It's family friendly. And
that's a lot of words right there. It's fair. It's finite. It's flattering. And looks good on the beach.
I think it may be one of the best ideas to help bring jobs and business back to America and empower people at all levels of the economic spectrum.
Yeah, we're going to bring jobs. Now, I'm going to walk you through some of this stuff that people don't seem to be able to grasp. Amazingly, they did before, but once you use this powerful thing called the fair tax, it literally cripples their brains.
I'd love to know what you think.
I'm going to tell you what I think. That's a look, it's his fault. He asked me. He said he would like to know what I thought. This isn't my fault. This is his fault. And we can't get to the fair tax. We can't get to the fair tax and talk about it unless we have a song. So I bid you no further ado, the song. Sing along if you know the words. I can't imagine you wouldn't, but either way. And you can buy brochures with the lyrics at the end of the show.
Hey, everybody, gather around.
All right, we're here.
I'm here to give you anything you like. You want free college, energy,
Yes?
mortgages, whatever you like. You have come to the right place. Why? I'll tell you why. Who can take your money?
Who can take your money?
With a twinkle in their eye.
A twinkle in their eye.
Take it all away and give it to some other guy. The government.
The government.
The government can.
The government can.
Now remember, he's complaining about having to pay taxes, okay? The song is about we all don't want to pay taxes. We all don't like taxes. We don't want to pay taxes. We don't like them, right?
Who can tax the sunrise?
Yeah. Taxes are bad, they say.
Who can tax the trees?
Who can tax the trees?
Let you run a business and collect up all the fees. The government.
I mean, let's be honest. I wasn't really serious about this until I heard the song. Then I was like, oh, I'm all in, baby. Let's do it.
Oh, the government can.
The government can.
And the government can, cause they mix it up well.
Now, this was 11 years ago, so this is 480p. It's just, I don't know. There's nothing I can do about it.
I'll make it all taste good.
Make it all taste good.
The government takes everything we make to pay for all of their solutions. Healthcare, climate change, pollution. Throw away the Constitution.
You want me to fast forward this? You guys get the point. They're always consistency. Jesus Christ, we're 3 minutes in. All right, I found it. We're at the end. So if you guys want to go back and listen to this tune, too bad.
Governor Huckabee, you have been one of the strongest and most persuasive proponents of the so-called fair tax.
Yeah.
And it is, I must tell you, every town hall meeting I have, there's somebody that shows up with a T-shirt on, and there's a groundswell for it. How do you answer the criticism that a flat-out just sales tax wouldn't cause lower-income Americans more of the pain and the burden of running our government and paying for its operations?
Now remember, it's a 30% tax on everything new that you buy, and that's the only taxes we pay. We don't pay payroll taxes. We don't pay income taxes. Not last night, but the night that I did the space, we don't pay property taxes, allegedly. We pay no other taxes. There's no other taxes to collect other than approximately 30% sales tax on new items, and no business-to-business taxes.
How do you respond to that particular criticism of it? And also, how do you account for the resonance that this proposal has gotten throughout the nation?
Well, the reason that it's getting resonance is because people would love to see the IRS abolished.
All right, so we're going to abolish the IRS. Perfect.
They know, as Dr. Phil might say, we've had it since 1913. How's that working out for us?
How's that working out for us? Well, we have a military and some other stuff that's, so I don't know. Is it good? Is it bad? Well, it's a little bit of both, right? It's a little bit of both.
It's not working out so well. The fact is, we're penalized for productivity in this country. The harder you work, the more you earn, the more the IRS and the government wants from you.
All right, so this is how it works right now. This is what they just said. The harder you work, meaning more hours you work, the more you're taxed, the more you're penalized. Okay? So the taxes we have now penalize you for working harder and making more money. Well, we should fix that. We shouldn't be punished. We should not be punished because remember, they're using that term. They're using a tax as a punishment. And the more you make, the more you're punished. That's them saying it, not me. That's them.
What the fair tax does is says we want you to earn, we want you to save, and we want you to buy things and sell things and make a profit. Republicans ought to embrace the fair tax.
Now, I can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. It's like they don't even listen to what they're saying. If you make more money by working harder and overtime, you are punished for doing that. So we're going to stop doing that. We're going to get rid of that, but we're now going to punish you when you buy new items. So instead of punishing you when you work harder and more hours, we're going to punish you when you buy new items. Now, when I say this to people, they're like, it's not punishment. Well, if this is punishment, then this is punishment. Kind of works both ways. All right. Not to them, though. Not to them.
As should Democrats, because it stops this nonsense
Yeah.
and goes to the common sense of the idea that we should encourage people to work and to get something for it.
We should encourage people to work by not punishing them to work and only punish them when they pay for new items.
On the bottom end of the spectrum, here's the thing. A lot of people have never read the entire fair tax. Because when I first heard about the fair tax, a consumption tax, quite frankly, it sounds like it would be oppressive and regressive to the poor. The poor come out best of all because
Listen to this. I forgot about this part. Listen.
of the provision in the fair tax called the prepaid, in which every American each month is given the amount of the fair tax back up to the level of poverty. Everybody gets it.
Okay. So now, we all complain that we shouldn't be getting free money. We all complain that this isn't a participation trophy. We all complain about this until this gets great. All right. So, if you are below poverty, if you're right, the fair tax is now going to give you a rebate to bring you back up to poverty. All right? So we're now taxing people to give poor people money to bring them up to poverty. So within your 30% tax, a portion of that tax is going to give free money. Now, we all used to complain about this, but not the fair tax people. Is going to give free money to people so that they can be brought up so that they can pay the 30% to buy the goods. I know you're confused, and you should be.
Not just those under the level of poverty. It actually untaxes the poor, untaxes the elderly. It makes sure that we don't end up paying taxes on groceries and medicine and the basic necessities of life. And for each third of the economy, there is a...
Now, so we don't pay taxes on grocery. Why? Because the fair tax is kicking the money back to the poor so that they can buy necessities. Now, truthers call this Nasara Gasara, and QAnon people and all those ultra-right people that think they're getting free money. They think they're getting their Black's Annex card and their Visa so they can buy these free goods. And fair tax people laugh at them while still supporting a fair tax that does the same thing. You're such a liberal. You're son of a
benefit, about a 14% benefit for those at the bottom, those in the middle about a 7%, even those at the very top end of the economy end up with about a 5% benefit. Everybody gets in the economy. No more underground economy. Drug dealers, prostitutes, pimps, gamblers, non-Republicans. All the
drug dealers now, even though drug dealing is still illegal, so you actually giving me money for me to give you drugs, that's not going to be recorded. Now think about that for a second. That's not going to be recorded, right? Because it's not legal to sell drugs. So, but when the drug dealers go and buy things, they're going to contribute to the system. What? So, hang on. Slow down there, speedboat. I love this one. Okay, so now let's think about this. Because I tried to debate Kevin Rutherford on this, and allegedly I lost. I'm not sure how, but I did. Okay. So now drug dealers, when I sell drugs, right? I'm a drug dealer. You come to me, and you give me $50 for drugs. Am I charging tax on that? Am I charging tax on illegal activities? Is that how that works? Well, he said no. I said, okay. But when the drug dealers buy things, they're going to pay taxes on them. Oh. No, they're not. We're going to talk about that. What? No, they're not. So when they buy what? Well, if they buy like food and stuff, well, maybe. If they go to McDonald's and pay for a fucking Happy Meal, maybe. Right? Okay, we'll talk about that.
those people out there will be paying taxes. Nobody's working under the table. And so
nobody's working under the table. But are they selling under the table? If I can sell drugs and not pay my 30% tax to that person for buying those illegal drugs, I'm now selling under the table. So you're not getting taxes on the fact that I'm now conducting illegal activities of selling drugs and not claiming it. Now remember, you abolished the IRS. They're gone. There's no enforcement. There's no one to look into the illegal under the table selling of items. The IRS is gone. The law enforcement branch that would technically monitor this is gone. I'm beginning to like this idea. I'm not going to lie. I'm beginning to like this idea.
you have now a broad base in which you're receiving the money. And it's a completely different transparent tax system as opposed to the one now where about 22% of our products we buy, the tax is hidden into it. Corporations don't pay tax. They build that cost in, pass it on to the consumer. And what's killing the American economy is that embedded tax and the invisibility of the tax. That's why I support the fair tax.
Okay, now, this embedded tax, okay? Embedded taxes are basically stuff like payroll taxes, which all go into the cost of selling of a widget. The cost of selling of this iPhone, there is embedded taxes, okay? Payroll taxes. Now, there's not resale taxes because resale taxes, you get a resale waiver and you can, you don't pay taxes on things that you buy for resale, right? That's may or may not know that. I'm letting you know. But they're using the word embedded to basically say that payroll taxes, property taxes, and all these other taxes are factored into the cost of goods that is being sold now.
Tax. I want to put the IRS out of business.
I want to put the IRS out of business. Yeah, let's create a tax that there's no one to enforce it. I'm with you.
Governor, there's a real issue of enforceability. I want to ask a follow-up. The Citizens for Tax Justice say that 93% of Americans, in effect, pay less than 15% tax right now.
93% pay less than 15%, approximately.
You're imposing a 30% sales tax. How does that help the 93%?
So 93% pay 15%, and they want to do a 30%.
Of Americans who are paying 15% or less right now?
Well, first of all, Tim, it's a 23% if we were to break even. And they're not paying 15%. That's in their visible tax in the terms of the takeout from their checks. When you include the built-in tax, the embedded tax in the products we buy that corporations build in, the average American is paying 33% in his or her taxes. The average American is working through the month of May just to pay off the government.
Okay. It's not just to pay off the government. So the cost of items. All right. So let's say for me to make this remote, it costs me $5 to make this remote, okay? I sell this remote for $10. Okay, so I'm making a $5 profit. I'm keeping up? All right. I sell this remote for $10. Now, the fair tax comes into play. Not right? The fair tax is now in play, and I no longer have payroll taxes. Okay? Now, the cost to make this is now $2. Okay? Cost to make this is $2. These people think that because the cost to make this is now $2, that I'm going to lower the price of this remote. No, I'm going to keep the profit. All right? You're still going to pay $10 for this. Now, let me explain to you how supply and demand works. Okay? Demand drives the price. If you want this remote, and you're willing to pay $10 for it, and it's flying off the shelves, the demand for this remote allows me to charge $10. So let's say it's off the shelf. I can't keep them in stock. I'm going to raise the price to $12. Now this remote costs $12. If it's still flying off the shelf, I might try $15. At $15, this thing stops flying off the shelf. I've reached the limit in which the demand for this remote equals the price in which I'm selling it. Right? You with me? I'm not lowering the price just because it costs cheaper. It could cost $1 to make. Ask China. China makes shit for $1 and sells it for $50. Right? We're selling China goods for $50. I get something from China that might cost me $1 from China, and I still sell it for $50. So it's not the cost of the good, it's the demand for the product. Right? Eventually, if this stops selling, I put it on sale. And then the price goes down to $12. And I see if they start to sell again. And then what happens is, if they do start to sell, I wait a little bit and I reprice it for $12 and I start at $12. And I see if the remote's going to sell, right? That's supply and demand. That's the demand aspect of people wanting this remote. Nothing to do with the fact that there's no taxes. There's nothing to do that I'm not paying China taxes, that I ordered this from China for $1. Nothing to do with the cost of this remote. Solely due on the demand for the remote. Now, the answer they keep giving me, which is cause and effect, is is the fact that competition will lower the price of this remote. It will, but until that happens, it's the competition that lowers it, not the cost of the good that lowers it. Now, I might be able to make 10,000 of these remotes, but my competition can only make 100 because they're just getting up and running. So competition is the fact that it's out there is great, but they still are limited to the amount that they can produce of these remotes. Plus, I might have a patent on this, right? So it's not the cost of this good that causes the price to go up. It is the demand for the product. Do you want to pay $10 for this? If everybody does, I can make it $12. Do you want to pay $12 for this? You don't even know what this costs me at all. Ever. But you don't care about that. Now, having lower costs will allow me to lower it, but I don't have to. Maybe I figure out a better way to market this. All right. That's the demand aspect of pricing. Nothing to do with the cost. Now, the fair tax people can't get that through their heads. They literally believe that the minute the cost goes down, the price will go down. Well, no, not at all.
It would be a dramatic difference if the taxpayers got to choose the taxes, which they would do under the fair tax. I think most of us realize that there's got to be a better system. The one we have now is irreparably broken. It's chased jobs. Now we have $12 trillion of working capital moved offshore because our tax system has chased it away.
In 1995.
All right, now we're going to kind of get into what this is. And here this is out. This is fantastic. I love it. I love it.
Fairtax.org assembled a team of leading economists that span the ideological and political spectrum.
Yeah.
They conducted extensive economic and market research in order to devise a simpler and more efficient tax system that would unleash the potential.
Nobody called me because I would have helped them save a lot of time on this one.
potential of the U.S. economy and help every working American create wealth.
Perfect. American's going to create wealth. Game on.
The result of this effort is H.R. 25 and
H.R. 25, it's an actual bill on the floor.
its companion,
God, I hope it passes. I really does. I'm going to be rich.
S-25.
I will literally start a business showing people how not to pay their taxes.
The Fair Tax Plan. The fair tax is a simple federal retail sales tax. Nationwide polling shows that when people have even a basic understanding of the fair tax, they overwhelmingly
I bet you they do. When people understand or even have a small amount of understanding for it, they overwhelmingly want it. I bet you they do.
support it, regardless of political affiliation.
Yeah, I'm actually supporting this also now. Not in the way you think. I'll explain why.
They favor it over the current system and all other alternatives.
What is the fair tax? Here we go.
The fair tax can probably best be described as a tax replacement plan. We're going to take the federal income tax in all its forms. That includes the corporate income tax, the personal income tax, the payroll tax, gift and estate taxes, all federal income-based taxes, and we're going to replace all those with one single tax called the fair tax. The fair tax is a consumption tax. That means instead of taxing income, what we earn, it's going to tax what we spend. We're very familiar with those. We pay sales taxes, and this is going to be a form of a national sales tax. I say form of a national sales tax because there are different ways to enact a national sales tax. So the fair tax is a specific kind of national retail sales tax. It's different than other sales taxes for a couple of reasons. First of all, it has no exemptions, exclusions, deductions. It's a pure sales tax.
Okay. You can't get away from it, okay? There's no way to deduct around it. Now, let me help you understand something here. So instead of punishing you by the amount of money you make, we punish you for the new products in which you buy. Now, why does the government give tax write-offs, right? And you guys are all out there, and you tax time. If you're running a business, one of the first ways you can do is you can spend money and buy things and write them off your taxes, right? So if you're looking at your business and you're like, hey, we're gonna have to get some tax write-offs, maybe we should go out and buy those company cars, right? Maybe we should. What does that do? Well, that incentivizes industries to go out and spend money buying goods so that they don't have to just give that money to the government. I know it sucks, but somebody who made that car, some car dealership who sold that car, some person that was a part of the factory who bought that car, basically had a reason to be there because now businesses are incentivized by write-offs to go out and spend money to try to get money off of their taxes. Does that make sense? It sounds like a kind of a good idea, right? I mean, I can either pay it to the tax man, which I don't want to, let's be honest, or I can go out and buy company cars or something business related or some type of business services to be able to write that off and not have to pay that in taxes. Those are write-offs. And you're putting money out onto the streets, company money out on the streets that would normally could end up going to the government. You're putting it out to private industries and writing those things off. Makes sense. Those are gone. So there is no incentives. There's no incentives for a business to spend money. It is decentivizing you by punishing you 30% if you go out and buy new items. So I ask any of you, if you know that if you go out and buy a new item, a car, a boat, four-wheelers, that you're going to have to pay an extra 30% on that new item, but not on a used item, would you buy the used item? Now remember, you're getting more money in your bank account. You're a W-2 employee and you're no longer paying taxes. So let's say you make $500, but instead of making $500, let's say you make $650, but $150 that is taxes, right? So you're out there working for a week and you make $650 a week. They take $150 in taxes, so you make $500 a week. I'm using simple numbers. Do the math yourself. So you now have extra money in your pocketbook. I realize that you're now getting that full $650. Well, most Americans are going to spend that money. They're going to buy things with that money. Perfect. But if you're going to buy things with that money, are you not smart enough to say, maybe I can get the used, 1 year, 2 year used, and not have to pay that 30% taxes?
We've designed it so that it raises the same amount of money under the fair tax as is raised today under the income tax. We call that revenue neutral.
Okay, so remember, you're not saving on your taxes. We're still looking all to get the same amount of taxes to the government. So we're not eliminating some of these wasteful in government programs. We're just doing it a different way.
So the same
allegedly, they think.
Amount of money is going to be collected by the federal government that's collected today. We also want to make sure that the fair tax is not regressive. Regressivity is a phrase that talks about people at the lower income levels being taxed too highly, and some people think that sales taxes are regressive, and they can be, but you can fix that, and the fair tax has fixed that. The way it did this is through a prebate system, and that means that every American will get the amount of tax, sales tax, that they will pay on essential goods and services in advance of having to spend that money. So that makes the sales tax, the fair tax, progressive, which means the more you spend, the more you're going to pay in tax. And lastly...
Okay, so what they've done is they said, look, if I'm poor and I don't make a lot of money and I have to pay 30%, that's going to hurt me. They said, no problem. We're just going to charge everyone else and give you a monthly rebate check so that you can spend that free money. You can spend that free tax money on goods and services so that it doesn't hurt you. Wait, what? Wait. So we're going to give them free money to spend. Now, we all know what happens when Americans get free money. They definitely they invest it and they save it. They don't overspend with it, right? Do we have any evidence of overspending when they got free money? Oh, we do. COVID. Let us continue.
I need to emphasize that the reason why we would do this, besides the obvious reasons of simplicity, the federal income tax is terribly complex and burdensome.
Now it is.
And intrusive. The main reason to do this is because the fair tax is pro-growth. It is going to give a huge boost to our economy. It's going to create jobs and economic opportunity for America. It's by far the best way to collect taxes. So we are strongly in favor of a tax system that's fair, that's transparent, that's simple and non-intrusive, and the fair tax meets those criteria.
Okay. This is the brilliant part. Now, I tried to explain this also, but people seem confused. Okay. So now you have a tax that you spend 30% when you buy something new, and no tax on your how much you make. So now you're getting more money in your pocketbook. Now, again, people seem to forget about supply and demand the minute we use the term fair tax. That's why I call it a fairy tale tax. All right. So you now have extra money to spend. You got 150 times 4, so let's say $600. Just an extra $600 a month to spend. That could be a car payment, boat payment, something, right? So people, the American people, are going to go out and spend that money because we're not programmed. We don't save. Go ahead and check the stats. We overspend. We spend more than our memes. We're definitely not saving. Most Americans don't have $1,000 for an emergency. All this stuff, right? So they're going to go out and spend. Now, when you go out and spend, that does what? That creates a demand. Economics 101, bitches. That creates a demand for products. More people are out there buying four-wheelers and boats and pools and cars and blah, 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 right? That demand for those goods raises the cost of the goods because more demand means less supply because people are buying them, which means you can charge more for the car, the boat, the four-wheeler, and so on and so on and so on. Okay? It does not lower prices. It does not lower prices. If there is a demand for Raptor pickup trucks and people are pre-ordering them, The more people who pre-order them does not lower the price because there's more demand for them. So they can charge more money for them. We do this in trucking. If there are 100 trucks and 1,000 loads, those 100 trucks can ask for more money because there are too many loads, not enough trucks. And it's amazing how we can process that until we use the term fair tax. And then it's like, blah, none of that happens anymore. It's all fixed. No, it doesn't. It still happens. Now, if you're getting this demand, you can hire more people. If you're hiring more people, guess what? Supply and demand affects hiring. For you to be able to hire more people, you might have to pay more money because you want those people to come work for you rather than the job that they're already at. That money goes up, which is then put into the cost of the good. All right.
Since each of us has control over what we buy and when we buy it,
Yes.
we control how much tax we pay and when we pay it. The rich will still buy expensive.
Think about that. Each of us have control on what we buy and when we buy it. So we are not now in control of taxes. What happens when we just say, I don't want to pay any taxes? I don't want to buy any new goods. I'm going to do cash deals under the table. I'm going to buy food from my local farmer. I'll buy some 30%, but not enough that you can maintain 30%, and I'll show you how.
Expensive luxury items and are taxed accordingly. But under the fair tax, the middle class is better able to manage their tax burden. The fair tax is designed to be revenue neutral. A tax of 23 cents out of every dollar spent provides...
Now, and with inflation, the reason I said 30 is somebody actually said it was, like I said, 28.5. It should be up there at 28.5 to maintain that it stays tax neutral. All right, so we're just going to round up to 30.
It's dollar for dollar revenue replacement. This funds the government and Social Security at exactly the same level as the current system.
And you can't even do that math. Because you don't know how many people are going to buy new and how many people are going to buy used. When you start punishing people for buying new things, they're going to stop buying new things. And people are like, yeah, but they buy new things now. They buy new cars now. They're not being taxed with a 30% government tax on a $100,000 car. They're not paying an extra $30,000 up front for that car because the taxes aren't going to be able to put into the thing. They're not paying 30%. You're not punishing them for that.
Social Security and Medicare benefits remain unchanged under the fair tax.
Okay.
The only difference is that they are funded from a more stable revenue source with a far broader base.
Is consumption a reliable source of revenue? Let's find out.
Consumption is actually a more reliable source of revenue than income. Our current tax system obviously is based on income, and so fluctuations in income will change the amount of money that the federal government is able to collect. Consumption, over time, if you look at it historically, is actually more consistent than income. So basing a tax on consumption, if one is worried about consistency and the government being able to fund itself on an ongoing basis, is actually a better one to use.
I'm not sure how that even makes sense. Incomes fluctuate. Yes, this is correct. 100%. So does consumption. You can't say incomes fluctuate, the amount of money that I make, but the amount of money that I spend doesn't. They kind of go together. If I'm not making any money, I can't spend any money, right? So, and you're not teaching people to not spend. Like when you take something, you say, we're going to charge you at 30%, people are going to learn to not spend. Even my wife said that, and she's an addictive spender. How will the fair tax be collected? Remember, the IRS is gone.
45 states today, in fact, already collect sales taxes.
Yeah.
Two of the biggest economies in the world, the states of Texas and Florida, have sales taxes primarily as their tax collection mechanism. So the great thing about the fair tax is that we can do away with the IRS. We don't have to have a national tax collection agency. We'll let the retailers collect the sales tax just like they do today. It'll be another line item on their tax collection. They're actually paid a fee to do that.
So now we're now paying a fee for the stores to collect the tax to send to the Treasury Department, and the IRS is gone.
there's no burden on the retailer. They send that money to the state. The state gets a fee also for collecting that.
Now, the state, we're also paying the state. So we're paying the store. We're paying the state to keep track of all this stuff.
And they send that on to the United States Treasury. So there is a very good tax collection system in place. And think about the advantages of never having to file a tax return, a personal tax return again, but simply paying your tax as you go about your business purchasing goods and services.
Perfect. Now, the IRS is gone. Well, that's a problem because the IRS does more. The IRS does more than just audit you. They do the enforcement. They do financial crimes, narcotics and national security, asset recovery investigation, special investigation. They do all this other stuff. Now, that's all gone. That's all gone. Okay? The IRS is gone. The only people collecting this is the stores. So there is no one out there to enforce that I'm not buying stuff under the table. There's no law enforcement for it. There's no one checking me other than the store that collects my money. No one. Right? Or are you hiring somebody? So are you getting rid of the IRS and then rehiring the IRS to do enforcement to make sure people aren't breaking the fair tax law? Well, we didn't think of that. We'll get back to you on that one. How does the fair tax rate compare to today's tax rate? Okay, I got more on this.
Well, there's a number of ways to answer that. I think the easiest way is just to do a little bit of simple math.
Yeah.
The lowest tax rate today, if you're in an income tax bracket, is 15%. That's the lowest income tax bracket you can be in.
Correct.
And then you're going to pay another 7.65% on your payroll tax, assuming you're just counting the employee part of that. So that's 23%. So it seems to me that the lowest tax rate a working American is paying today is the same tax rate that everybody will pay under the fair tax, which is 23%. And by the
All right. Let's take... Now, understand... GE pays no taxes. General Electric, let's see. General Electric paid no federal taxes in 2010. Meet the 18 profitable companies that paid no taxes over eight years. How did they do this? First of all, I was told that this never happened, and it did. Because people complain about this all the time. How does this happen that they paid no income taxes? Well, let me explain. There's no tax write-offs, so they're not going to go ahead and spend money to buy different things that would normally give them tax write-offs. Because spending money, they are punished for.
the way we're comparing the right tax rates, the tax-inclusive rates of 23 today versus 23 in the fair tax. Many people, of course, if you do better financially, are going to pay a lot higher rates than 23 today, but that's the lowest rate. So on average, people are going to pay lower rates under the fair tax. How can that be? Well, and raise the same amount of money because we're taxing consumption. Consumption is just a lot bigger pool of money to tax than income.
No, it's not. I'll explain.
So we're going to pay, as a society, the same amount of taxes, but we're going to be able to pay lower tax rates on an individual basis under the fair tax.
Now remember, there's no way to prove this. There's no law enforcement branch that are going to go out and make sure that that the money's actually being, collected, because there's no IRS. Okay, pay attention. The way the IRS knows how much money the store brought in that day is they audit them. They audit them. Okay? Taxes audit. So if I'm a store and I'm doing this much revenue a day, the people are filing quarterly taxes. And for that quarterly taxings, they're going to have expenses and stuff like that. How? With no system of investigating this, how will the government know how much money the store is actually bringing in? There's no IRS to audit them. How do they know? So if I run a store and I say I bring in $10,000 and I'm supposed to collect 30% of that, $3,000, and turn that in, okay? How do you know that I actually didn't collect 20,000 and I'm just going to show 10? You're not auditing me. You're not keeping track. You're not enforcing me. The IRS is gone. You see the possibility of crime and corruption here yet? Oh, it gets better. It gets much better. I'm all in for this. Is the tax rate for a fair really 23?
It is a 23% sales tax. Some people say it's really a 30% sales tax. But yes, it is. It's also a 30% tax. Well, how can it be both? Well, how
This is
can a football field be 100 yards and 300 feet?
Okay.
Because it's a different way to measure it. You can measure sales taxes in a tax-inclusive rate, yards, or tax-exclusive rate, feet. And the difference is, if I go to the store and I spend $1 under a fair tax world, 23 cents of that is going to be tax.
Now, I'm using 30, it's an easier number, and people are already saying that it has to go up because of inflation.
It's 23% of the dollar. If I go to the store and I have an item that's $1, they're going to multiply it by 0.3, 30%, and I'm going to pay $1.30. 30 cents of $1.30 is 23%. It's just a different way to count the number. Why did we use 23%, not 30%? Because we're going to replace an income tax, which is measured in the yards version or the tax inclusive. So I want to compare a sales tax rate or the fair tax with an income tax in the same way of talking about the numbers. So that's why we typically use 23. If you want to compare it to a sales tax rate, typically tax exclusive, we use the 30% rate. So both are correct, and there's no effort to be confusing. We're actually trying to be fair to compare the rate the right way.
23 cents from every retail dollar may sound high, but this simply reflects today's federal tax revenues.
Right, now we're like 30, just so you know.
Under the fair tax, government spending is made visible for the first time. Indeed, when people see the tax on their retail receipts, they may begin to question government spending more seriously than we...
No, they won't. When people see the fact that they are paying 30%, they will say, fuck this noise, I don't want to pay anymore. Even Reagan said that. If you actually had to write out a check to the IRS to pay your taxes, like it wasn't taken from your check, you wouldn't want to pay your taxes. Right? So they're going to find, what are they going to do? They're going to find ways to get out of paying taxes. I got some for you.
We do today.
Not now, but with the fair tax.
Nevertheless, 23% is less than most people pay today in federal taxes. Consider that most people fall at least into the 15% income tax bracket.
And now remember, this is only on new goods. So if everybody stopped buying newer goods, or if everybody opened up a business, because business to business does not pay taxes. Business to business purchases does not pay taxes.
All wage earners pay 7.65% in payroll taxes. That's almost 23% right there, without taking into account the 7.65% employer matching or any of the other federal taxes we must pay. It's worth repeating. Under the fair tax, most people pay less in federal taxes than they do today. Those who spend at twice the poverty level, for example, pay a tax of only 11.5%, a much lower rate than the income and payroll taxes.
Now remember, you're paying that because you're getting a kickback from the fair tax.
They pay today. Because the fair tax broadens the economic base for collection, generally less is required from each taxpayer in order to raise the same amount of money. And the fair tax doesn't require any of us to spend one more dime figuring out how much tax we owe. We would never have to file an income tax return again.
Brilliant. We are never going to have to file an income tax again. I'm down. I'm down.
April 15th would be just another spring day.
Nice. Is it truly progressive? Let's find out.
The fair tax is progressive, and the reason why it's progressive is because of the prebate. We make sure that no taxpayer pays the fair tax on essential goods and services. That means that the first dollar of fair tax that you pay is on the first dollar you spend after essential goods and services. And when you think about it, if a very wealthy person spends $10 million this year and gets a prebate of $4,500, and another person spends $30,000 this year and gets a prebate of $4,500, clearly the person spending the $10 million, even though he's getting the prebate, is going to spend a huge proportion. 23% of $10 million minus $4,500 is a huge amount of taxes. That's
brilliant. Now remember, so you're getting free money. You're getting free money to pay for essential goods.
a very progressive system.
Yeah.
And the great thing about the system, it is totally transparent.
Totally transparent. This is the best. Now I'm gonna drop some bombs on these motherfuckers because they're a little confused.
There's no gaming. There's no tax lawyer or accountant that a wealthy person can pay to get them out of paying their fair share of taxes. It's definitely progressive. They're going to pay that tax on everything they spend above the poverty level.
Now,
the family consumption allowance is a monthly check sent in advance to pay the tax on any purchases up to the federal poverty level. A prebate.
You get a monthly check. You get a monthly universal income check. You get a monthly universal income check. Bro, I am not talking about the people that wanted universal income that wanted this. I am talking to the people that were solely against universal income want this deal.
Combining the prebate with the elimination of payroll taxes, the fair tax, in effect, untaxes the poor. As the number of people in the family rises, the amount of the prebate rises. The family consumption allowance is helpful to every American household.
Absolutely. Free money. What do Americans do with free money? Well, we improperly spend it.
Especially seniors and others on fixed incomes.
Yeah. How the prebates work. This stuff makes me want to drink. Is alcohol a prebate situation? Can I buy alcohol?
The prebate is a system designed to ensure that no American pays taxes on essential goods and services. And this is important because it will make sure that the
define essential goods or services.
Sales tax, the fair tax, is progressive, meaning that as people spend more, they're actually going to pay more taxes. The prebate works like this.
Okay.
We take the HHS, Health and Human Services, federal government poverty level, and we say no American should pay sales tax on anything up to that level because that's the bare necessities to live.
Perfect.
Now, the way we
Problem. Who is interpreting that level? Because the IRS is no longer getting how much I make a year. They don't need to. It doesn't exist. The IRS is gone. Okay.
accomplish them not paying tax on that is to simply send them the amount of tax on that amount, poverty level, 22% of the poverty level, and we send them that money.
Perfect. I just turn it in. You give it back to me. Got it.
They have it in their pocket. Therefore, when they go shop, they've already paid the tax, been paid for the tax.
Now, who actually checks to see if that was actually something I bought? Who does that enforcement? And I'm not just fucking printing up receipts for $100 to people and selling them for $1.
And they'll go ahead and pay it at the cash register. And when it runs out, they're now up to...
Listen, you coming up with all these criminal ideas for the fair tax, stop it! You're giving them ideas. Shit, I'm just getting warmed up.
The poverty level, every next dollar is now taxed. It's a better way to do it, or a simpler way to do it, than trying to have someone at the cash register confirm that this person is buying an essential good and service. That would be a very difficult way to do it. So
don't let the cash register do it. I just need the receipts.
It's simply a more strict...
Because remember, there's no IRS to audit that those goods were coming in and who made those goods, right? You don't know if I made those goods. You don't. I'm sorry that I bought those goods.
Straightforward way to make sure that no American pays taxes on essential goods and services.
I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be rich. You have no idea the businesses I'm going to have when the fair tax comes into play. Well, you're starting to get an idea.
You also asked, how are we going to ensure that people don't cheat that system?
Oh, how do we don't cheat?
Because the prebate grows with family size. If you have a family of 10, we're going to assume that it takes you more money to get to the basic necessities than a family of 1, and that's obvious and true. Well, that's all tied to Social Security numbers. So if you're going to...
Gotcha. Tied to Social Security numbers. Got it.
Claim the prebate for a family of 10, you need to have 10 valid Social Security numbers for your family. These are typically audited today to make sure they're actually human.
Audited by who? The IRS. We don't have the IRS, so who's auditing them?
Beings for a number of other programs.
I don't need it. You can have your Social Security numbers. I'm just going to sell receipts for $1. I'll sell receipts 10 to 1, right? So for $1, I'll give you a receipt for 10, right? $10, $100. I'll give you receipts. You can turn that in. You can get your prebate money. Game on, chummo.
And that's the way it would work under the fair tax.
I'm already gaming your system, boys. I'm already gaming your system. What do we got here? Will the probate create massive new entitlement system?
The prebate is not an entitlement system. In fact, it's the exact opposite. What it does is it mitigates the tax that you are going to pay on essential goods and services. So instead of getting a benefit, somebody is actually giving you the tax that you are going to pay in the future in advance. So no, it's in no way a massive entitlement program. It's simply a way to make sure that no one pays tax on essential goods and services.
That's brilliant. Hook me up, boys. DM me for receipts when this fair tax gets in there. The fair tax, is it fair for rich people to get the same probate as poor people? Now, rich people are rich usually because they know how to do business. Usually they have a business and they understand business. And business is hard. Business is hard. It's hard to do payroll taxes. It's hard to do all this. But the fair tax makes that all easy. So now anybody can have a business. It's no longer as hard as it used to be. They're making it easier.
It's completely fair that every person in the economy get the same rebate. No one will pay tax on the essential goods and services up to the poverty level. So the multimillionaire will get, if he's got a small family, will get a $4,500 rebate, and a middle class or a poor
Game on.
person will get $4,500 rebate. They all will get it. But the rich person is going to pay a huge amount of taxes that year because they're going to spend so much more money.
No, the rich person is not going to pay a huge amount of taxes that year. I will explain why.
Than the middle class or the lower income person.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you. Better than is a fair tax better than other reform efforts? Let's find out.
Well, you have to take each one of those schemes and look at them individually, but in a broad sense, the fair tax is the simplest, it's the most transparent, it's the fairest, it produces the lowest marginal rates, and it produces the highest growth for our country. It's also the least expensive plan.
Unless you run into people like me, which there's a lot of people like me. I'm not the only one this smart. I'm close, but I'm not the only one.
That's been devised. So in any attribute you want to discuss, the fair tax is the best of all those plans.
Better than a flat tax. All right.
The fair tax is far superior to the flat tax for a tax reform system.
Far superior.
For the United States for a number of different reasons.
Yeah.
The flat tax keeps a lot of the hidden taxes that we have in our tax code today. We want a tax code, ideally, that's very transparent. We want to see all the taxes we pay. And the flat tax includes in it the payroll tax and the corporate income tax. Well, the corporate income tax we pay in the price of all our goods and services. It's hidden, so it's not very transparent. The payroll tax is regressive, and it's a tax on work. So any good tax plan ought to be transparent. Let us see the tax.
Remember, it's a tax on work. This is a tax on spending, right? So we punish you for spending or we punish you for working. Got it.
The flat tax doesn't meet that criteria. It ought to be fair, and it ought to not
fair. I love fair.
Tax work, savings, and investment. And the flat tax, although it has many good attributes and is clearly better than the current income tax system, is not close to being as good as the fair tax for the United States.
The value-added tax increases hidden taxes, taxes which place the heaviest burden on those least able.
All right, so we got production on. Okay, so we got cars and metals and parts and raw material
to afford them.
Yeah.
The flat tax simply strips out the progressive aspect of the income tax. It does not free U.S. exports from tax or impose any tax burden on imported goods.
All right, so no sanctions, right? So I can still get from China, and it doesn't get rid of sanctions and export taxes.
And the flat tax can easily revert back into a graduated income tax. Neither of these alternatives is as simple to administer nor as efficient at funding the government as the fair tax.
Yeah.
Neither eliminates our regressive payroll taxes or returns us to a constitutional prohibition of the income tax.
Yeah. I want a constitutional prohibition of the income tax. Game on. I don't think I don't think that works. How is a fair tax different than a value-added tax? I know it's getting boring. I was fucking bored.
The value-added tax is a tax that is tacked on at every stage of production.
And I'm only doing this. I don't care if people watch now. I'm just going to leave it out there. So when people are like, the fair tax work, I'm going to say, shut the fuck up and go watch my video and call me back when you're done.
And what that means is that the VAT tax will be hidden in the cost of the things you buy. For instance, today we have a corporate income tax. That's hidden in the cost of everything we buy. We don't know really how much it is.
Corporate income tax is hidden in the cost of everything we buy. Cost of doing business. Okay.
Is in the cost of what we buy, and that's not good. It's not transparent. A VAT is like a triple or quadruple corporate income tax. It's added on all the stages of production. So when General Motors buys steel or rubber or glass to make the automobile, they're paying taxes on each of those stages, and then at the very end, when we buy the car, we're paying the sum total of all those taxes. VAT taxes are particularly bad because they're hidden from us, and they can be raised, and we never know it. It just looks like inflation to us, and we have no idea it's actually the tax system. So a VAT is something we really want to avoid.
I agree. We need to fix the tax system that we're at. But this one ain't it. How does it affect the economy?
The fair tax is an incredible boost to the U.S. economy.
Incredible boost to U.S. economy.
In a number of different ways. One, it removes 90% of the compliance costs that we all pay today to comply with the federal income tax.
Okay, so 90% of the clients. So it makes business easier. It makes it easier for everybody to open a business. Because you don't have all these compliant costs to try to stay compliant. And that's a big word I keep hearing from a bunch of people. But I got all these compliant costs. Well, those compliant costs make it where not everybody opens up a business. That eliminates some of your competition, right?
Those compliance costs have been estimated into the $250 billion or $270 billion range. So those are largely gone under the fair tax. Second of all, imagine the growth we'll have when we untax savings and investment and work and productivity. The income tax...
Okay, so usually savings and stuff, when you invest in like 401s, you can get away with not being taxed as it is. You're untaxing labor, the amount of labor, right? You're untaxing labor. And in their minds, the cost is going to go down for the product because of that. Well, if costs go down, labor goes down. You see what I'm saying? Like, labor would go down. Costs go down. Labor would go down.
Taxes all those, the fair tax untaxes all those. So the benefit to our economy in terms of economic growth is going to be huge. Interest rates are going to go down.
I don't know how interest rates go down because interest rates aren't affected by taxes per se, right? So the amount it costs you to borrow money is based on, let's say, a bank, right? A bank says, well, the interest rate is this. That's not solely based on that's not based on the taxes. You're borrowing private money. Now, I don't understand how interest rates go down because taxes are taxed differently. Because taxes aren't going down. Taxes are taxed differently, so they believe interest rates, the money in which you borrow somebody else's money, will go down because taxes are taxed differently. And that's not true.
Why is that? Well, when people are not taxed on savings, they'll save more. And as you save more and more money is in that big pool.
No, that's not true. You're not taxed on 401s now, and the last thing we're doing is saving money. We do not save money. It has nothing to do with not being taxed on saving money. No one is out there saying to themselves, if I was only not taxed on saving this money, I would save it. But since I am taxed on saving it, I'm going to go ahead and spend it instead. And that way, that'll teach the government for taxing me on saving money. How you like them apples, government, that I just paid more in sales tax? How you like them apples? You can't make this shit up.
The cost to borrow that money goes down. So both for businesses and consumers, interest rates will go down. And
that's a complete lie.
That's very helpful, obviously, to economic activity. And then another great reason is the effect on international trade. When U.S. businesses are no longer taxed when they send goods overseas.
They are taxed to send stuff overseas. Those are called sanctions. And you just said earlier that it doesn't affect sanctions, right? They are taxed to send stuff overseas. Those are sanctions. Those aren't income taxes. Those are sanctions. Other countries tax us, and it's because it's not just our tax. We tax China for bringing for them to sell their goods here, right? China tax us. Those are sanctions, not taxes. You don't even know what you're talking about here.
And we don't tax companies that produce here. We're going to have a tremendous benefit on our international trade and also on the number of businesses who want to locate in the United States to produce goods and services.
Shifting the tax base from what people produce to what they consume begins to stimulate the economy almost immediately.
Really? If I'm punished for buying shit, if I'm punished to buy shit, that stimulates the economy? I mean, I don't know if that's true.
Work by Harvard economist Dale Jorgensen shows a quick 9 to 13% increase in our gross domestic product.
Now, I'll explain why this is.
Boston University economist Lawrence Kotlikoff predicts a 7 to 14% increase. Even the National Retail Federation, which is opposed to the fair tax, shows the economy would be 1 to 5% larger.
Gross domestic product. So, people might start producing more, but doesn't mean they're going to sell more.
This growth is fueled by several factors that only happen under the fair tax.
Yeah.
The first of these is the removal of hidden taxes. Over 20% of the cost of goods or services is actually hidden taxes passed on to consumers.
Okay. Those are tax write-offs to a business. Okay. So you can call them hidden taxes. Okay.
Businesses today pay taxes on labor as well as on raw materials.
Yes.
Capital equipment. And almost everything that goes into the manufacture of goods and creation of services.
Yes.
When all these taxes are removed, the cost of producing goods and services drops.
No. The cost of producing services drops. That does not mean they are going to lower the price. Now, we're looking at a house right here. Let's use the houses as a reference. All right? Use the houses as a reference. You go to buy a new house, a new built house, because you now have more money. You're now getting an extra $600 a month. Use simple numbers. You're getting an extra $600 a month. You now say, I want a house to be built. You're not buying a used one. You're buying a new one. All right? The price of the house is not based on the cost of the goods alone. Okay? It is now based on the demand for housing. So if more people are now getting an extra $600,000 a month, more people will go out looking for houses. More people will want houses built. All right, with me? They are now going to force the price of the house to go up based on the demand for housing. There's only so many houses out there. Only so many houses can be built. There's only so many spots to build the houses. They will put a demand. With the demand drives the price of the house up. Right? I mean, when we buy cars, they used to have so many people making cars, right? And they used to have all human beings in there. Well, when we got automation, that lowers the price of the car, right? Yes. But the demand for cars with more people, everybody's driving. So the cost of the cars go up. The demand. Not. So just because you don't pay these doesn't mean prices are going to drop. And people are like, well, there's more competition. More competition for what? House builders? You can there's only so many people that can build a house. Well, more people will open up house building companies. Oh, yeah. There's only so many spots you can put the house. It's not going to now that's for new houses only.
Removal of compliance costs drops the cost of doing business even further. Some companies may be inclined to keep these savings themselves, but competition doesn't allow that to happen.
Competition does allow that to happen. Now, like I said, you are welcome to keep the price. If there's a demand for housing to be built, there are only so many house builders. Well, then people are going to have to open up general contracting companies. Then they're going to have to hire people. And they're going to have to pull these general contracting, these new general contractors are going to have to now pull people into their businesses away from other businesses, which means you're going to have to pay more money. Do you not understand this? Do you not understand supply and demand affects absolutely everything? Just more competition just doesn't mean automatic price goes down, right? Because you might be only be able to build one house a year. I can build 50. Because I've been doing it and I've got all the people. You got to try to find enough people to have for you to build one house a year. Plus, you got to be able to finance and pay those people. Because you don't get all your money up front.
As forward-thinking businesses reduce prices to increase market share,
that's not what happens. They don't reduce prices to just increase market share. They do in the beginning. Walmart will reduce prices until they knock out everybody else. Then they raise prices again.
competition drives prices down across the board.
It does. 100%. Where are you getting the competition from? Where is this magical competition rushing into the market to build houses? Where are all these general contractors with no employees, no contractor's license, no equipment, no saws, rushing into the market and you're going to be able to compete with me? And I've been doing it for 20 years? No. No. I can build 20, 30, 40, 50 houses. You can build one. Competition just isn't automatic.
The fair tax allows exports to be sold tax-free, enabling American
Exports, no, it doesn't allow them to be sold because there might be a tax. The government can put a tax, a sanction or an excise tax on the goods that leave the country. That's not going to get rid of, your fair tax is not going to get rid of that.
companies to export more competitively. Imported goods are taxed the same as domestically produced goods when they are...
No, that's not going to happen. And the reason that we don't allow that to happen is because we sanction countries that do bad things. So we can't just give up our powers of sanctioning the sales of goods for a fair tax, right? Human rights crimes and things like that, we sanction them. Things like that. So that's not something the government's going to give up.
Are sold here. American producers compete more effectively with foreign producers, both at
So I'm throwing all this out.
home and overseas. The U.S. becomes the most attractive country in the world for business and investment. International investors seeking lower tax.
Now, what does that do? That creates more demand over here. Demand drives up wages, which drives up costs, which drives up what? The price of goods. Doesn't lower them.
Taxes on their income relocate here. U.S. dollars now invested abroad flood home.
U.S. dollars flood home. Anybody understand inflation? We don't want U.S. dollars to flood home. We don't want a flooding of U.S. dollars to flood home.
During the
We want other countries to want to hold our money. We want other countries to want to maintain our money in their bank accounts.
1980s, when marginal
I guess you guys don't understand fucking inflation.
tax rates in the U.S. were reduced from 70% to 28%. Roughly $1.5 trillion of capital flowed into the country.
That creates a bubble, right? That creates a bubble. When interest rates are low and money is cheap, people dive into money. When they dive into money, they spend the money. When they spend the money, they what? Causes inflation.
Boston University economist Lawrence Kotlikoff estimates the fair tax raises the stock of U.S. capital by 13% in the near term and by as much as 83% over the long term.
Yeah, I can't understand how.
As capital flows into the U.S.,
I mean, I'd love to have him on and explain it to me.
interest rates drop, spurring the growth of
Interest rates don't drop as money comes racing back in. They don't drop. That's not how interest rates work. Interest rates control, allegedly, they try to control inflation. So they go up and down to try to control inflation. So if we have too much inflation, we have too much money rushing around, and we have too much spending, interest rates go up. And we try to control spending because too much spending because of supply and demand causes inflation.
the economy even faster. Businesses are able to increase productivity by investing more capital per worker. And increased productivity?
Now, again, they're not getting any benefit to increase that, right? They get a benefit under the old system. If you were to increase money into your system, if you'd increase, then you would get a tax write-off. It would be beneficial. Now you get punished for spending money.
Drives up real.
So now I'm being punished for spending money. Because remember, in theory, you just think that just because companies are saving money over here, that they're immediately going to put that money right into this, right into investment. Now, we all know when businesses cut money, they give it to themselves in profit, right? Why is that all of a sudden stopping? Like, what mindset is changing? Oh, it's the fairy tale mindset. Got it.
Wages. Demand for workers increases, and jobs stop migrating over.
Demand for workers increase. Does that lower or raise the price of labor? Well, demand means raise. That means it costs me more to hire an employee. That means I'm going to take that cost and pass it on into my product. So the price of the product goes up.
Overseas. New plants are built with American labor.
New plants are built. That means more people. That's a demand for material, demand for products, demand for electronics, demand for labor, demand. Demand means prices go up. Assume ideal circumstances, completely compliant, and no one. Okay, yeah. If nobody would think like an evil person like me.
Much of the equipment installed is American-made, and American workers employed in these plants produce increasing amounts of goods.
Now, again, you're saying that now all this product is going to be American-made. The problem is we don't make some of this stuff. We don't make the raw material. We don't make some of the finished material. We don't make the transistors and semiconductors and all this stuff. We don't make it, and we don't make it for $1 an hour.
For both domestic and foreign markets.
The middle class is affected like really any other subgroup in the economy. They are exempt from sales tax on purchases up to the poverty level, and then after that, they pay the fair tax on their consumption. The more they save and invest, the less tax they pay. Think about it. For the first
the more they save and invest. Well, they can do that now, untaxed. Like 401, you can dump so much money into 401ks and stuff to get away from your taxes.
First time in history, you're actually going to
buy every foreign car. Yeah, why not?
able to control your tax burden by your behavior. If you're thrifty, you can pay less taxes. If you want to spend all your money, you're going to pay more taxes relative to the next person. But it no longer depends on your income. It depends on your behavior.
Right. So no longer it depends on how much money you make, and it's no longer governed by an IRS to oversee that. It is literally governed by no one, and it's only based on how much you spend. So if you don't spend, which spending is good, like it or not, spending is actually good. Like it spurs, people to make things and give somebody a job. So it's not a bad thing, but we're going to punish you for that. Yeah. Impact seniors.
It's actually a great advantage for seniors, there's a number of reasons why. The first reason is that many seniors, like many of the rest of us, are saving for our retirement, expecting not to support ourselves solely on Social Security. So we save in tax-deferred retirement plans, 401ks, pensions, IRAs.
Tax-deferred. Got it.
And the deal is that we don't have to pay tax on the money when we save it, but we have to pay the tax when we take it out.
Okay.
That's generally a good deal because we get to build up that savings tax-free. Well, the great news for seniors and the huge benefit for seniors that have any one of these programs is that all the taxes under the fair tax are removed on those savings. So they get to take all that money out tax-free, when as before they would have had to pay an income tax on it.
Now, I'm okay with doing that to seniors if you leave it in there, but we don't need a whole tax plan.
Now, other seniors either don't have those tax-deferred retirement accounts or maybe counting more on Social Security.
Right.
A lot of people are unhappy to find out when they retire and begin to draw Social Security that their Social Security benefits are actually taxed. And the fair tax will remove that tax on those benefits. Keep in mind, for lower income seniors who perhaps are on Social Security, they still get the prebate, so they may pay no income tax at all under the fair tax. When you combine their Social Security benefits with their prebate, they may be completely tax-free. Also, we abolish all gift and estate taxes, so seniors can pass on their assets tax-free to their kids or their grandkids. All the complexities of the tax estate planning and trying to figure out how to maximize what you have accumulated all your life and pass it on, all that goes away. It's your money, your assets, you do whatever you like with it. So in the studies that we've done, actually all demographics that we can study come out better under the fair tax, but seniors actually benefit disproportionately well under the fair tax.
Okay. I'll give you some of that. Not that we need a fair tax to do that, but I'll give you some of that.
In terms of their benefits, nothing. This law has no ability to change how Social Security or Medicare is paid out.
Yes, it doesn't affect Social Security or Medicaid.
Those are unchanged. And in fact, the only thing it really changes is it puts them on a more solid foundation to be funded. And what I mean by that is instead of funding out of the payroll tax, which is narrow, it'll just be funded out of the entire tax collection of the federal government. The fair tax will just get dumped into one pot, and Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid are paid out of that pot. That's a little better way to fund it. Let me emphasize, though, that if there's a shortfall in Social Security or Medicare, Congress is going to have to deal with that problem because the fair tax is going to collect exactly the same amount of money when it's instituted as the current income tax does today.
All right, so perfect. So if there's a shortfall, you're out of luck. You're fucked. Now, Congress can say, well, we have to raise it to 32% or 33% or 34% or 35%, right? Because eventually they just might have to say, well, we got to raise it. You're all paying this tax and we're raising it.
Your current retirement plans that are tax deferred, meaning you got to not pay taxes when you contributed to it and expected to pay tax when you got them out, and that's generally the 401ks and the pension plans.
Yes.
Everyone who has one of those just got a huge increase in the amount of savings that they can use in retirement because we are no longer going to tax those under the fair tax when you remove that money. So it's a huge benefit to all these big retirement plans.
Okay. Got it. Impact savings. Okay, how does it impact my savings?
Well, savings rates in the United States are going to go up when we untax savings. It's a kind of a old rule in economics that if you tax something, you get less of it. And
if you tax something, you get less of it. It's an old rule in economics. If you tax something, you get less of it. So what is the fair tax taxing? Spending. So what are you going to get less of? Spending.
If you untax it, you tend to get more of it. So if you
And what happens? Now remember, if you get less spending, there's no other way to collect taxes. Spending is the only way to collect taxes. So we're going to take that one way of collecting taxes, that one way, and we're going to tax it. Spending. He just said, you tax something, you get less of it. So we're going to do one tax only, and we're going to tax spending, And for some fucking reason, we're not going to get less spending. Okay.
You untax savings, you're going to have higher savings rates. What does that do for the
Weird shit. It's almost like they answer their own questions and they don't even know what the fuck they're saying. It's literally like they don't listen to what they're saying.
economy? Two main things. Number one, it gets capital formation up, which means we have a lot more money flowing in our economy. And number two, that pushes interest rates down. People can borrow to buy homes and cars, and businesses can borrow to expand and create jobs.
Yeah. Sounds right. Sounds good. All right. Tax-free bonds?
Really nothing happens to tax-free bonds. Today, tax-free bonds are an unusual animal in that they're a way you can save tax-free in the short term.
Whoa. So there's a way you can already save tax-free, as in tax-free bonds. Okay.
Well, under the fair tax, all savings instruments are going to be like tax-free.
So you can do it now with tax-free bonds. Or you can do it always with our plan. So, okay.
Free bonds. So the real effect is not on the tax-free bonds.
Got
it's
it.
on all the other ways we can save.
All right.
Will now become tax-free like the tax-free bond. So every investment and savings instrument will be like a tax-free bond.
Everything we have will be something just like something we already have. Got it. It's brilliant. Where's my beer?
In the fair tax world.
Okay.
I think, on the contrary, the fair tax is going to be one of the biggest accelerators of people able to purchase homes.
Perfect. People able to purchase homes. Now remember, if you buy used, you don't pay the tax because you only pay the tax once. So there's going to be a demand for housing, which means the price of the housing is going to go up because more people are going to want to buy housing.
I mean, when you think about the home mortgage deduction, what the home mortgage deduction says is that you can deduct the interest you pay on your mortgage from your income taxes. You can lower your income taxes by the amount that you paid on the interest for your home mortgage.
Correct.
Under the fair tax, you can deduct your principal and your interest payments from your income tax payments. In fact, since your income tax is zero, it all goes away. It's like a supercharged home mortgage deduction. You get to pay your whole mortgage payment pre-payroll tax and pre-income tax dollars. It's a fantastic system.
Except the principal on the loan. You got to pay the principal on the loan.
For home buyers. But one of the biggest advantages has nothing to do with the home mortgage deduction. It has to do with how much faster under the fair tax you can save for a down payment. When you talk to people, first-time home buyers, what's preventing them from getting a home is a down payment and an interest rate, a mortgage interest rate.
Mortgage interest rates are not going to go down. The amount it costs you to borrow money is not going to go down. That is not based on how we collect taxes.
Both of those are going to improve dramatically.
They're not. How we collect taxes is not going to lower your interest rate.
Interest rates are going to be lower.
Because you're going to be spending more money. You're going to be spending more money because you're getting more money, which means there's going to be more demand for goods, which means goods are going to become inflated, and that's going to be inflation. So then you're going to have somebody come down and inflict damaging punishment, because that's what the fucking interest rates are. That's what the Fed does. They raise interest rates to stop us from spending. Dummies. We already have a plan like this in. Stop us from spending. So what do you guys want to do? You want to put a tax on spending. What do you think that'll do? Stop us from spending.
Because savings are no longer taxed, and since they have their whole paycheck, they're going to be able to save for their down payment much faster. So if I were in the home building business or a realtor or a home mortgage company, I would prepare for a huge acceleration of activity in that sector.
Perfect. Huge acceleration of activity in that sector. Which means what? I can't believe I have to repeat myself. Do you know how many times I had to try to explain this to people who I thought were intelligent, who I realized weren't? If you have a booming thing in that sector, what happens to that sector? There's more demand. What happens when there's more demand? The price goes up.
A major concern in any tax reform effort is what happens to mortgage interest deductions.
Yeah.
The easy answer.
You can't write off anything. And at the end of the year, you have no taxes. None at all. Everything you buy that's new has a 30% tax. There's no IRS. The IRS is gone. That means that there's no law enforcement to make sure that I'm actually claiming sales tax at all. It's all gone. It's all gone.
Is it with no
This is brilliant. I can't wait for this. I'm going to be rich.
no income tax? There's nothing to deduct.
Go back in the video. All right.
Plans that are tax deferred, meaning you got to not pay taxes when you contributed to it and expected to pay tax when you got them out, and that's generally the 401ks and the pension plans. Everyone who has one of those just got a huge increase in the amount of savings that they can use in retirement, because we are no longer going to tax those under the fair tax when you remove that money. So it's a huge benefit to all these big retirement plans. Well, savings rates in the United States are going to go up when we untax savings. It's a kind of a old rule in economics that if you tax something, you get less of it, and if you untax it, you tend to get more of it. So if you untax savings, you're going to have higher savings rates. What does that do for the economy? Two main things. Number one, it gets capital formation up, which means we have a lot more money flowing in our economy, and number two, that pushes interest rates down. People can borrow to buy homes and cars, and businesses can borrow to expand and create jobs. Really, nothing happens to tax-free bonds. Today, tax-free bonds are an unusual animal in that they're a way you can save tax-free in the short term. Well, under the fair tax, all savings instruments are going to be like tax-free bonds. So the real effect is not on the tax-free bonds. It's on all the other ways we can save will now become tax-free like the tax-free bond. So every investment and savings instrument will be like a tax-free bond in the fair tax world. I think, on the contrary, the fair tax is going to be one of the biggest accelerators of people able to purchase homes. I mean, when you think about the home mortgage deduction, what the home mortgage deduction says is that you can deduct the interest you pay on your mortgage from your income taxes. You can lower your income taxes by the amount that you paid on the interest for your home mortgage. Under the fair tax, you can deduct your principal and your interest payments from your income tax payments. In fact, since your income tax is zero, it all goes away. It's like a supercharged home mortgage deduction. You get to pay your whole mortgage payment pre-payroll tax and pre-income tax dollars. It's a fantastic system for home buyers. But one of the biggest advantages has nothing to do with the home mortgage deduction. It has to do with how much faster under the fair tax you can save for a down payment. When you talk to people, first-time home buyers, what's preventing them from getting a home is a down payment and an interest rate, a mortgage interest rate. Both of those are going to improve dramatically. Interest rates are going to be lower because savings are no longer taxed, and since they have their whole paycheck, they're going to be able to save for their down payment much faster. So if I were in the home building business or a realtor or a home mortgage company, I would prepare for a huge acceleration of activity in that sector.
A major concern in any tax reform effort is what happens to mortgage interest deductions. The easy answer is that with no income tax, there's nothing to deduct from. But the fair tax has positive effects on residential real estate far beyond this narrow question. With raw materials and labor no longer taxed, home building costs are lowered, allowing competition to drive prices down.
Again, that's not what lowers the cost. That makes more profit, but it doesn't lower the cost.
Likewise, mortgage interest rates are estimated to drop about 25%. So while homeowners cannot deduct interest, borrowers pay a much lower interest rate and have to borrow less because houses are less expensive.
Yeah, that's not how it works at all. And somebody please come and tell me that please explain to me that if there's a massive boom of people wanting houses, the massive demand for people wanting houses, why housing prices go down, even if the cost of the house, my house right now is built. My house, if I were to sell it right now, if there was a massive boom of selling, is not going to go down because my house is already built. It's the demand for the house.
People are taking home their whole paychecks, so they're able to save for a down payment much faster. They are
You hope.
also able to make a higher monthly payment.
Got it. So you can make a higher monthly payment. Got
With
it.
a fair tax, there are no estate taxes if a home is passed on to the next generation, and no capital gains taxes if it is sold. The same is true with a farm, ranch, or other family business.
Perfect.
Actually, no. There's a great dynamic tension between rewarding savings and investment so that people want to save and invest. And then as they save and invest more and interest rates go down and prices go down, then they begin to consume. And the same thing happens in today's economy. When interest rates go down, when home mortgage rates go down, there tends to be more economic activity. And as they tend to go up and people will become more conservative, in their normal business and consumer cycles, they will continue. But in a fair tax environment, they will continue without the burden of taxing income and savings and investment and productivity.
Okay. So we give people, is there any evidence of giving people more money and what they will do if we just give people more money? Let's say we gave people $600 extra a week. Let's just say that happened sometime, like during, I don't know, COVID. Did people save money or did they just spend more money? Did they spend more money and cause inflationary aspects of demand? Demand with, and those things. Yeah, doesn't matter. Ignore that. Ignore COVID. Okay. Oh, this is the best. This is the best. This is where you guys will hire me and I'll hook you up. Will the fair tax lead to massive cheating in an underground economy?
A sales tax is actually more enforceable and harder to cheat than our current income tax
It's not.
system. And this is for a number of reasons, and they kind of make common sense when you think about them. First of all, a sales tax is, it takes two to cheat a sales tax, someone not to collect and someone not to pay it. A lot of
Okay. It takes someone not to collect and not to pay it. Do you know how that is checked right now? IRS. Income tax. Who will be your enforcery aspect? Who will be the enforcery aspect? What department? You have gotten rid of the IRS. The IRS is gone. It doesn't exist. It's poof. Everybody in the IRS is now fired. Who comes out and verifies? Because you know what will happen? Let me tell you what will happen. If you have no law enforcement branch coming in to audit this stuff, because remember, you said no one was auditing it. You said that these people will be paid to keep track of it and paid to send it in. So I go to my grocery store. I go to my local farmer. I'm going to buy some new meat. Right? I got some new meat. And I go to him and I say, "Look, I can give you $130 for this, or we can split it and I can give you 115 and then we just don't claim it." Because you're not claiming income anymore. You don't have to show that income. I don't have to show that as a write-off. No one is showing this transaction to anyone. And I've just saved 15%. He made 15% more. I've saved 15%. Win-win. You're fucked, government. See how that works?
People.
Now remember, who's your law enforcement branch?
An income tax, you can cheat by changing a number on a tax form in the privacy of your own home, sending it in, and just making a bet that you're not going to get audited. And
yeah, because it
is impossible to audit adequately the number of tax returns we have today, well over 100 to 140.
You can't audit. Think about this. You cannot audit the amount of tax returns that we have right now. Do you possibly fucking think with less people you can audit the number of transactions? Not without central bank digital currency. You can no way audit the amount of transactions. I literally get one paycheck a year. I literally can make 10 transactions in an hour. How in the hell can you keep up with with auditing my transactions if you can't even audit my income?
Million tax returns today.
Yeah.
A fair tax cuts the number of tax returns by 90%. So if you have a lot fewer returns to watch, collecting the same amount of money, it's much easier to police a sales tax. Second of all, cheating is incentivized by tax rates. If it's a very high tax rate, there's a higher incentive to cheat. If it's a low tax rate, there's a lower incentive to cheat.
Yeah.
The fair tax has lower rates on average than the income tax. Therefore,
No. I don't want to pay taxes at all. You can't compare it to income tax because all I'm seeing now is 30% on 30 cents on every dollar. So my whole goal now is I don't want to pay that 30 cents. I don't want to pay that 30 cents. And it's now harder for you to audit transactions. You think it's hard to audit income at the end of the year? Motherfucker, come talk to me and tell me how quickly you're going to audit transactions to make sure I'm paying my 30%.
Or you get less every time you cheat a sales tax, so the incentive actually goes down a little bit.
No, it doesn't. It goes up. I'll say split it 50-50. Hey, man, no one's going to audit this deal. No one's keeping track of how much money you're bringing in by the end of the year. That's gone. No one is keeping track of how much money you're bringing in at the end of the year. There's no IRS. You're not being taxed on that. Split the sales tax with me. I'll give you 15% extra. I'll keep 15. Let's move on.
Third of all, to cheat a sales tax and really get money, you have to cheat on a pretty big item. You can't.
No, you don't. I don't have to cheat on a pretty big item. I can cheat on all my items. It's better for me to cheat on smaller items. I go to the store and buy $100 and have to pay $30, or I go to my farmer and say instead of paying $30 on 100, I just say, how about I give you 15? But if we could all do that.
Cheat on a pack of cigarettes or a pack of gum.
We're not going. If you're going to go to the store and buy one pack of gum, who gives a fuck? But we're not, are we? This isn't the days where we go to the store to buy a pack of gum, right? We go to the store and buy $200 worth of food.
On a sales tax world and really get a lot of benefit. You'd have to cheat on a really large scale, and it's really hard to buy a black market house.
Okay, perfect. hard to buy a black market house. Now, how can we get around that? I'll let you know. Let's continue.
The amount of tax gained on most purchases is low, so cheating has a low marginal benefit for the possible punishment, which is tax fraud.
Tax fraud? What tax fraud? There's no IRS. Who's enforcing the tax fraud?
So the sales tax is definitely
Who's enforcing that?
more enforceable than the
Oh, Treasury. Got it. Well, I hope you hire a lot more fucking Treasury people to keep track of all those transactions.
income tax. The income tax today is riddled with not only inefficiency but outright cheating. We know a lot of people today simply don't file an income tax return, and under.
So, if they're already cheating on their taxes, what makes you think they're not going to cheat on your taxes? What makes you so special?
The fair tax, you don't have to file an income tax return. You're going to pay the tax every time you go to the corner store and buy.
Perfect. So there's no income tax return. Remember. So how are you auditing this shit?
Buy something. The great thing about the fair tax is it will bring in many sectors of our economy that are not currently paying taxes. And the way that it does this is that it really doesn't depend on how you got your money. You could have gotten it illegally, you could have gotten it in any possible way, but the fact is when you go down the street and you spend your money, you're going to be taxed on it. It's the system which is the...
Not always. All right. Again, like I said earlier, I'm selling drugs, right? You come to me, you give me $50, I give you $50 worth of drugs. I ain't recording that. I'm already selling drugs. I'm not recording that. Right? Just not. Now, if the drug dealer goes to McDonald's and gets some food, yeah, that'll get recorded. But the problem is if I'm selling fucking drugs, I'm not going to go out buy $10 million house because the law enforcement's going to look at me and say, how the fuck did he get that $10 million house? Where the fuck did he get that money? And they're going to start investigating me, and they're going to see that I got that money by selling drugs. So I'm not putting myself into a situation to do anything stupid when it comes to... Well, you shouldn't. There have been some, obviously. But you shouldn't.
Broadest possible net to capture tax income from Americans. And the income tax simply cannot have the coverage and will never have the coverage of a sales tax in terms of capturing not just cheating, not just willful non-payment, but oftentimes people just aren't complying correctly because the tax law is so complex, and they would actually want to pay what they owe, but they're not because of the complexity of the tax code. So the fair tax takes care of all those.
Yeah.
The IRS estimates uncollected taxes from non-filers and tax cheats amount to more than $345 billion a year. This does not include the underground economy of criminal activity. Non-compliance, no matter the reason, increases the tax burden for law-abiding...
I just so you know, IRS, how much do you make in fines when you catch people breaking stuff? When you find a bank doing something wrong, or you go out there and you seize, when the IRS seizes some money overseas and they keep that money, how much money does the IRS make seizing money when they seize it from foreign entities that illegally are, terrorist activity type shit? Because the IRS is gone. Remember? We're getting rid of that foreign asset and those possible ties to terrorism financially.
Citizens, especially wage earners and the middle class, by collecting taxes at the point of purchase.
Forgot about all that law enforcement shit.
The fair tax substantially reduces the billions in uncollected taxes resulting from noncompliance, confusion, and honest mistakes.
Gotcha.
The fair tax reduces tax evasion and lowers the burden on law-abiding taxpayers.
Legal immigrants. That's good.
The fair tax is unlikely to affect the amount of illegal immigration, or legal immigration, in fact, that goes on today. What it will do is it will capture taxes from illegal immigrants that today may not file income tax forms and pay the federal income tax. In addition, you have to be a legal U.S. resident to be able to get the prebate. So if you want to be exempt from taxes on your essential goods and services, you're going to have to be a legal resident. So if I was an illegal resident in the United States under the fair tax, I would not only have to pay tax, but if I wanted the benefit of the prebate, I would actually have to become a citizen to get that. So I think...
So if I wanted the benefit of the free money, I just have to be a legal citizen. Got it.
It's going to have a very good effect on our...
Now, we complain about free money, because think about this. Think about this. As long as you come here and become a legal citizen as fast as you can, you get free money. Got it.
System vis-a-vis illegal immigrants.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't know how many hamburgers or french fries they've sold. Did I hit play? No. Okay.
Americans could cross the border and not pay the fair tax, but...
Now, does this happen at all? Yes. Canadians come across my border. I live up here in Maine. I used to live in Buffalo, New York. Canadians come across the border because taxes are extremely high in Canada. They're extremely high in Canada. They cross the border, buy goods in the United States. Well, they did before inflation. They buy goods here in the United States, even with the exchange rate, hide them in the trunk, and go back.
Why would they do that if there's not an advantage to doing that? Once we remove the embedded cost of the corporate income tax, the payroll tax, and the compliance cost,
because it's still cheaper for me to buy for China. It's still cheaper for me to buy from China. It's still cheaper for me to order Temu and order Chinese products. That's why. No matter how much you lower the tax rate, it's still cheaper for me to buy from China.
Good or service costs us about the same as it does today under the fair tax. Why would
So I'd order from China direct and have it shipped directly to my house and leave the U.S. out.
we cross the border to go buy that purchase across the border when it's going to be the same cost as it is today under the fair?
There will be a business that I guarantee you will be Chinese 100% figuring out ways that they don't have to claim taxes because they will list every new item as used. Because remember, you don't pay it on used. Chinese will list, if I was in China and I wanted to sell to Americans, and you could buy for me, and all I had to do was list this item as used, almost new, and you wouldn't have to pay taxes on it, you don't think China's going to do that? You don't think China's going to divert our taxes by doing that? You're fucking nuts.
Tax. So I don't really see any benefit.
I will literally move to China or to another country and get the items and sell them back to you Americans as used once and be done.
Benefit to doing that.
Yeah, why does it have to be foreign? Good point.
The same thing is with state to state. Since all the states are going to have the same income, fair tax,
Yeah.
sales tax, there's going to be no benefit to going across a state line to purchase a good or going across an international border to purchase a good.
How will used taxes be good? This is the best part.
Under the fair tax, used goods are not subject to the national sales tax. And the reason why they're not is that would be double taxation.
All right. The minute it's used, you don't pay the 30% tax. The minute it's used, you don't pay the 30% tax. This is the question that literally breaks people's brains. I've asked people that people don't want to admit they're wrong, right? But I've asked people the question that didn't care, that, you know what I mean? And I've said, if there was a 30% tax on a car and the car was $100,000 and you bought the new car and it was going to cost you $130,000, or you could buy a used car that was 2 years old for $100,000 without the 30, would you buy the new car or would you buy the used car? It's a simple question. Now, it broke people's brains because they didn't want to answer that. But when it came down to it, people would say, well, I'd just buy the used car. I don't want to pay the government $30,000 in taxes just because something's new. That's understandable. Nobody would want to.
Imagine you bought a new car and you paid the sales tax or the fair tax on your new car, and you turned around and sold it the next day. Well, you've already paid the tax for that car. So now that tax is embedded in the price of that car. And if you sell that car for a little less than you bought it the day before, you're going to recoup that tax back to you, the person who paid it. So the person who buys a used product is not going to pay the government another round of tax on that car. They're going to pay you, and you're going to recoup the tax you paid. So not taxing used goods is a way to prevent double taxation, which in the fair tax, we never want to double or triple tax any money.
As a sales tax, the fair tax taxes what we consume, not what we produce. It taxes what we take, not what we make. A wealthy person buying an expensive luxury car pays more taxes than someone buying an economy car.
Now, let me explain this, and I think they get into it. The other aspect of the fair tax, and this is why I have to wear a bulletproof vest and an ear guard. The other aspect of the fair tax is business to business is untaxed. Let me say that again. Business purchases from one business to another business is untaxed. So used items and business to business purchases are untaxed. Why is this important? Because I said to people, no one would buy a new car. And then they would say, well, we would run out of new cars. No, we wouldn't. If I wanted a new car and I did not want to pay the taxes, I would open up a business, which is a simple thing to do. You get an EIN number. You open up a sole proprietor. You go to your state and you open up an LLC for $300. My business could be a startup business selling 3D prints. It could be a startup business. So if you set up an S corporate, correct, you don't have to pay the taxes. Now, you take that company, right, Sage Enterprises, and you go down to the car dealership and you say, I'm a company and I want to buy a new car as a sales car. No taxes. You take that sales car and you trade it in 2 years. Now it's used. Now there was no taxes paid on that. I bought it from business to business. I will literally, if this fair tax goes through, I will literally start a business showing people how to start businesses and get around this fair tax. Done. And if that's all I have to do is start, and I even said, well, oh yeah, a bunch of people are going to want to go out and start businesses. Well, you just made it easier to start a business. You got rid of all the corporate taxes. You've got rid of the payroll taxes. You've literally made it easier to start a business. So on one half of the story, you're saying a bunch of people are going to start businesses. And that's going to create competition. And you're going to have to lower your prices. And then when I say, well, they're going to start businesses. You can't see my other hand. They're going to say they're going to start businesses. And they're going to buy this stuff business to business. Your answer is, yeah, like a bunch of people are going to start businesses. Well, you just fucking said they would.
And since everyone takes home their whole paycheck, they're able to afford a better car. Someone who buys a used car pays no federal tax. The fair tax taxes goods only one time, when they are originally purchased. All used goods are free of federal taxes.
All?
Well, in fact, in charitable giving, people generally give out of compassion because they want to support an entity, not solely for the tax deduction.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'll give them that. A lot of it's tax deductible, but a lot of times where I give, they're like, you want a receipt? I'm like, yeah, it's no big deal, right? You know what I mean? So yes and no, right, with charitable type stuff.
But those that give for the tax deduction, they are also more advantaged under the fair tax than the current system. Again, if you give a contribution to a charity today, you've already paid tax on that money.
There's no, like I said, there's no losses. There's no, you don't write off losses anymore. You can't write them off anymore. Like, think about that. You're a business and you have losses. You can't write the losses off anymore because there's no need to, because there's no taxes
that you give to them. It's a post or after.
But remember, you write some stuff off so that you don't have to pay taxes. So you spend money as a business, services and goods, which promotes other businesses, just so you don't have to pay taxes, right? That incentivizes me to buy a pickup truck for my business at the end of the year if I need a tax write-off. But if I'm now going to be punished to buy that pickup truck, I ain't buying it, right?
After payroll tax dollar that you give. And then you can deduct that amount in some cases and up to some amounts from your income tax.
Yeah.
Great news. Under the fair tax, you can give as much money as you want tax-free, and the money you give has not been taxed, so you actually have more money to give. So much like the home building market or the home purchase market, charities are likely to benefit greatly out of the fair tax.
Again, if there is no income tax, there are no tax deductions. However, research has shown that charitable contributions are more related to the health of the economy than to tax benefits. When people have more money, they give more money.
That's true. When people have more money, they spend more money, right? They don't save it. They spend it. They give it. They throw it away.
Moreover, people give to charity based more on a desire to help than on the ability to take a deduction. 2 of every 3 taxpayers do not itemize today, so they get no tax benefit whatsoever for their charitable contributions or for the home mortgage deduction.
Okay.
Well, it's real easy. We are de-taxing work and repealing the payroll tax. So when you repeal the payroll tax, the business can decide to lower the price of their product with that money, or they can increase the payroll of their employee with that money.
Or they can just take more profit. They don't have to lower their price or pay more. They can just keep more profit because they're a business, and their job as a business is to maximize profits for their shareholders. I forgot about that part, didn't you? You forgot about that maximizing profits for shareholder thing? Damn it.
There's also on top of the payroll tax savings, the compliance cost savings, and the corporate income tax savings that can be distributed to shareholders, to price of the product, to the salary of the worker. Different products and different services will have different price decreases, just as different workers in different sectors of the economy will have different increases in their take-home pay.
Again, the price of the goods isn't based on the cost of the goods. It's based on the demand. When you buy something from China, it probably costs them $1 to make. You sell it for $10. If the price is 50 cents and people are still buying it for $10, you're not going to lower your price. They're still buying it.
How that shakes out, competition will tell us. In industries that have very tight labor markets, where they're really searching for employees, you're likely to see much bigger increases in salaries. In other industries, you're going to see huge decreases in the
So you see increases in salaries, which, again, they may still raise the price of the goods.
prices of products when they have plenty of people to produce their goods. So it's impossible to say economy-wide how that shakes out, but for each individual sector of the economy, each individual good and service, you're going to see that benefit manifested.
Perfect. Beautiful. How do we keep exemption exclusion? Okay.
Primarily by simplicity. I mean, the great thing about the fair tax is everybody's taxed at one rate, and there's no exemptions or exclusions. Therefore, if somebody wants to change the rate, it has to be changed on all of us, so all of us can get together and object to that, as opposed to the divide and conquer, and we say, well, we're just going to raise the rate on this group of people or this group of people. And the same thing with exemptions and exclusions. The first one that comes up is going to be very visible to everyone, unlike today, when they can hide exemptions, exclusions, and deductions in a very complex tax code. It's just going to be obvious. So transparency is really our best protection.
What's nice about the fact, not nice about taxes, but unfortunately, taxes make opening up businesses harder. You got to know more, you got to learn more, you got to be more prepared, and it prevents some competition because of that. Because I have to work a little harder to know my tax code, to know my tax stuff, to know what's going on, right? Where somebody else might just say, you know what, I don't want to deal with all of that, so I'm just going to stay an employee because I don't want to deal with all that. And that, like it or not, eliminates some competition. Because of the people that either don't want to or just can't figure it out. But now when you make that easier and you eliminate all those problems, guess what happens? People get in that probably shouldn't be in business, and they may or may not make it.
Against having this tax system eroded into something we don't like.
Corporates get windfall under tax breaks.
Corporations don't enjoy a windfall from the fair tax. The consumers and workers, the consumers are the product of the corporation, and the workers of the corporation receive the windfall. Again, corporations don't pay taxes anyway. Corporations just collect taxes or pass on taxes. The customer always pays the tax, or the employee is paying the payroll tax. So if we abolish a corporate income tax, we don't help the corporation. We help prices go down for the people who buy the product for the corporation, and we help salaries and income of the people who work in the corporation.
Gotcha. Okay, here we go.
It will be very difficult for you to pretend to be a business to avoid the fair tax. In fact, today, in many states...
Now remember, why are you doing this? Because if I'm a business, I'm going to back this up too. Where are we at? We're at 5123. Because if I'm a business, I don't pay it. 5123. All right. If I'm a business, I don't pay it. Business-to-business sales don't pay taxes.
For the people who buy the product for the corporation, and we help salaries and income of the people who work in the corporation.
I'm going to let the next one go.
It will be very difficult for you to pretend to be a business to avoid the fair tax. In fact, today, in many states, businesses are exempt from paying those taxes as well, and they have very sophisticated means of ensuring that you are a business before you make a tax-free purchase. In fact, under the fair tax, there isn't a tax-free purchase. You actually, even if you're a business and you buy something at the retail level, you're going to pay the tax, and you're going to simply take it off the tax due or get a rebate from the state when you show them that you're a business. But what do you have to show? You have to show sales. You have to be a registered business. You have to actually be a business to be able to take advantage of that, and there's really very little way for you to fool the system into thinking you're an actual business when you aren't.
Okay. So again, what they're going to do is I don't have to pay the taxes, but I get a rebate. So all I have to do is open a business. How do I open a business? Well, how would somebody verify that I open up a business? Well, I got one way. One, I go to the IRS and I fill out an EIN number. That's gone. All right. So let's throw away sole proprietor. Let's go with LLC. I go down and I file with my state. Obviously, pick a name. File with my state, an LLC, corporation, whatever you want to do, Inc., whatever. You fill out the paperwork, put the name on there, name your officers, do all the hubbub, all that crap. Send that paperwork to the state. They determine that your name can be, it's not taken. They say, okay, pay your money, let's use a simple number, $300 by the time you're all done getting all your stuff, and then they send you back your articles of incorporation. Okay? And I got your articles of incorporation. $300. You can go to LegalZoom, do it for cheaper sometimes. $99, $100, whatever. Now I have articles of incorporation. Okay? Now, I might have a business that's a startup business. I'm not making any sales yet. I just opened up the business, and I'm trying to get some customers. I'm trying to make some stuff, but I'm still a business, and you're not keeping track of how much money I'm making. You're not keeping track of my money in, money out at this point, right? Because remember, I'm not being taxed on income. So if I'm not being taxed on income, I'm only being taxed on sales. Maybe I haven't made any sales yet. And what's your threshold of sales? Is it $10? Is it $20? Is it $50? Like, when am I considered a business? What? Because right now I have a business that's technically a business. It has an LLC. It's not doing any sales right now. It's tentatively a business that I keep an active business. That if I want to start doing media or I want to start doing something, I can go ahead and start filing under that. So I can literally prove right now I have a business. And I think it cost me $299, I think I paid, right? $299, right? So now I have a business. I started a company. Just tell them you're buying for work. Yeah, I'm going door to door looking for customers. Right now, my work is seasonal, right? I'm a pool cleaner, and it's winter. It's still a business, and I still want now. Everything now, what happens with businesses? I want to buy a car I use my business to buy a car. I use my business to buy a meal. I use my business. I'm talking business with my wife. I use that. We're talking business. This food's going to go towards a company. I'm going to have a company picnic. All this food's going to be used for my company picnic or my investor picnic. Or I'm going to set this up for, to try to bring in, other people to use my services. Who the fuck's going to enforce that? Who's enforcing that I'm not? Who are you to say I don't have a business? Yes, I do. So now I open up a business and I go out and I buy a car. Well, what's that car for? That's this car so I can go door to door and try to bring in some customers. So I'm not paying taxes on it. Do you guys not see the loopholes in your own fucking system? And the only reason I'm doing this show, like I said, I've already debated this numerous times, and all they do is tell me, oh, these are all loaded questions. Yeah, they're only loaded when you motherfuckers are coming to the battle unarmed. When you come unarmed with intelligence, my questions seem loaded to you. That's all I can tell you. That's all I can tell you. Learn to answer these questions, and they won't look so fucking loaded to you. But this is I literally had debates with this. I'm going back and forth, and I'm bringing these points to people, and these points people are listening to these points, and they're like, you don't understand. You just don't get it. You like giving money to the IRS. Well, wouldn't it be better if you kept that money and invested it? But I am investing. I'm investing in a military. I'm giving money to the government to hold on to. Let's say I get a return at the end of the year, okay? If I'm giving money to the government to hold on to, and they're using that money for interest, and they're making money on that money, and down the road that money provides me with a fucking military, I'm good with that. I'm good with that. They can hold my money for a year if I get it back at the end of the year. And then once I get it back at the end of the year, I'll invest it, and I'll do the same thing over again. I'll just be 1 year behind investing. But they're giving me some shit for that. Right? I mean, and military is one aspect. There's other things that the government does. Roads. The Baltimore Bridge. Do you know why we didn't wait for insurance companies to start before we just said, fuck it, we better start building this bridge. We'll take it out of tax dollars. We'll take it out of infrastructure money, and then we'll go after the insurance companies. Is because we needed the bridge. Guess where that money comes from? Us. To make sure we can get that bridge built, that while we're building the bridge, and they're going after the insurance company or the boat, whoever owned the boat, or I don't know who they're suing now. There's a bunch of shit going on, but you get the point. Air traffic controllers, federal law enforcement agencies, FBI. I mean, no, all right, FBI should be defunded, right? Really? Are you saying that when they're busting, if they end up busting, drug traffickers or human traffickers or child traffickers and shit? Are you? Should we? Dams. They're investing in infrastructure in regards to semiconductors to try to bring tech and high-paying jobs to this country. They use some of my tax dollars for that, and they hold on to my money for a year, and they use it. Now, again, I'm a business, so I'm talking about people that file their taxes and get tax returns. Well, I had to wait a whole year for that money, and you got something for them holding on to your money. You got the fact that that road that you drove on was built to get to the job. That nobody's coming into our country and kicking our ass. But nobody sees it like that. Interest rates. I don't understand how it affects it.
Interest rates are the cost of borrowing money. It's
the cost of borrowing money. Got it.
Price of borrowing money. And when you have more of something, the price tends to go down. If we have lots of cars in America or lots of clothing, supply is big, prices tend to go down.
Yes.
If you don't have very many of them, prices go up.
Okay.
So when you don't tax savings anymore and there's more savings, it's like...
I don't understand how he just thinks people are going to automatically save money. Like, he just immediately says, well, the minute you don't tax savings, which there are things that aren't taxed, and people still aren't saving, I guarantee you, people don't understand. Yeah, I'll talk to you later, John. I'm going to actually send you a link. I'll text you a message. People have ways to save money right now tax-free. They have ways to save money right now tax-free. 401ks, right? And they don't need to pay taxes on it right now that they could be doing that. They could be saving it. Now, will they be taxed? They would. I'm just saying that there are ways to right now, and they don't. They don't. So I don't know why all of a sudden, just because with this fair tax plan, that people think that they're just going to start, people are just going to start saving money and they're not going to spend money. When all the evidence we have of extra money, we can show that people spend it. How many times you see the article, Americans don't have $1,000 for an emergency? That's been going on for years.
Like having lots more cars or lots more clothes in the store, the price is going to go down, and the price in this case are interest rates. So we're likely to see...
We're not going to have a lot more cars because they're not going to make... They don't just make cars to make cars. They make it based on demand. If nobody's wanting demand for those products, but now you're giving people free money, they're going to... Dude, it just makes no sense.
Significantly lower interest rates for both businesses and consumers, and what that does is it allows people to go out in a consumer level to make major purchases like cars and homes, or in a business level to borrow money to be able to have the business expand. And that...
No, so when people are going out and spending money, spending more money, buying more things, that causes inflation. Inflationary aspects are controlled by raising interest rates. It's almost like people became dumb.
That's what drives the economy in America.
It's the best. Let's find out.
Well, the retailers are going to be in a great position. The retailers today have the burden of the income tax system. They pay payroll tax, they pay their corporate income tax, they pay all their compliance costs. They're going to trade all those bad things, all those burdens, and they're going to trade that for collecting a sales tax and sending it in, which, by the way, 45 states out of 50 already do.
Right.
They're actually going to be paid to do that. So from a retailer's perspective, internally, it's a huge benefit. Now, how about for their people who come to their store? Now their shoppers that come to their store are going to have their full paycheck. They're going to have...
Well, the shoppers don't get... Okay.
Before payroll tax dollars, income tax dollars, their whole paycheck. So you've got a customer with more money in their pocket.
Customer with more money in their pocket. What happens when you have a customer with more money in their pocket? They spend more. What happens when you spend more? The price of the goods go up. Why? Supply and demand.
And a customer that can borrow money less expensively. That's a pretty good customer to have.
So now they can borrow money less. They can borrow money for less. They have more money. They can spend more money. All of those affect the cost of fucking goods. Dummy.
have if you're a retailer. So the retailers internally are benefited greatly, and then their customers are likely to be more aggressive buyers of those people's products.
More aggressive buyers, which means you're going to buy more, which means inflation, demand is going to be higher, which means demand's going to be higher. That's going to mean the cost of the goods go up because that's how inflation works. But I lost the debate. I lost the debate. Because the other people said this doesn't happen.
The fair tax, by its very nature, protects taxpayer rights and civil liberties because it's not intrusive. You pay when you spend. The money that you save and invest is yours, and no one tracks it.
No one tracks it. No one tracks it. Do you see how he keeps saying, no? This is why, listen, I'm going to end this fucker here. Because I win. I win right there. No one tracks it. You no longer have any agency of the United States government tracking money. You're not keeping track of any money. So I guess it's just based on, I don't know what. The chance that people don't lie? Good luck with that. So let's think about this. Again, like I said, I show up. No one is keeping track of the amount of money in which you spend, which you buy. No one's keeping track of that. It's your job to turn that shit in. So what happens? I come to you and say, I want that car. Oh, that car's new. You got to pay 30% on that one. How about I give you 15%? You keep it. I keep the other 15%, and I buy that car for that $100,000. And give you 115 and I save 15. You don't turn it into the government. I don't tell the fucking government because I don't have to report it anymore. I'm out of here. You're $15,000 higher in your pocket and we're both out of here. You don't get that. You don't think that shit's going to happen? Because who's going to enforce it? Not the fucking IRS. They're gone. Nobody's reporting it. Nobody's recording it. He just fucking said it. You don't want to buy it at all? You open up a business. You get your articles of incorporation. You show up with those articles of incorporation. You say, I'm a business and I'm buying this fucking car, this brand new fucking car with no tax. Please, somebody fucking debate me on this that can actually take this video and do a reaction to this video. You're welcome to do it and explain to me how this shit won't happen. I've been going on around this for probably about a week now. And I think my biggest confusion, because my wife's like, my biggest confusion is the fact that people I thought that could process this type of information, people that we were all on kind of the same page, how supply and demand works, interest rates, interest bubbles, money, human behavior. We're all on this same page. The minute they talk about this fair tax, it's a great deal. It's beneficial. Prices are going to go down. This and this and this is going to happen. And to me, I guess that me, Sage, just being Sage, me just being me, the fucking Outcast is like, what? No, it's not. That doesn't make sense. That's not going to happen. Why would that happen? I can show evidence that doesn't happen now. COVID. I can show you that I can game your system right now. And I will. Because there's nobody to enforce it. You don't have an IRS. What does the IRS do? The IRS does things like, I don't know, cyber forensic services, advanced analytics. I mean, they do law enforcement. They have training. They look for overseas money. Corruption, fraud, public corruption, cyber crimes, international, general tax fraud, abrasive tax schemes, employment tax, identity theft, refund fraud. These are all things that the IRS does. Law enforcement activities to make sure that these things happen. Now we're on what? Good behavior? Good luck with that. And then people, even somebody said, and JB, I'll say his name, that we were out there said, well, we're just going to become sensitized to it. We're just going to get used to it. Why do people live in California when the cost is so good? Why are people leaving California? Stats that may surprise you. They're not staying in California. They're leaving California. They're literally leaving California. It's so bad that California wants to create a law that says that they can still tax you, even if you leave the state. They're leaving. They're leaving. I think it's the highest. 2022, California experienced a net loss of 341,000 residents. So they are losing people. They're losing people. People are leaving California. Why are people leaving California? Let's see, number one state people are moving to. No, that tells them where they're going. Are moving from? Is New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and California. They're leaving. California is the number one state people are moving from. California is the number one state people are moving from. Ahead of New York, high tax, New Jersey, high tax, Illinois, high tax. They are leaving. Why are people leaving California in 2020? Why are people moving out of California? Here's how many people have moved out of California. They are leaving. Because of high tax. People will find a way to get out from tax. Now, nobody's really going to fucking, I deal with this all the time. Well, nobody's going to watch this show because they live on hopium. People want to live on hopium, right? And the hopium aspect is I would rather believe what I feel is real than deal with what is really real, right? I mean, when I went into spaces, people don't want to admit they were wrong about this. That this won't work. This doesn't make sense. There's monstrous loopholes. The government will not get the money they need. So they're going to have to keep raising that 30% because too many people are finding loopholes to get out of paying it. Because let's face it, if you're a million or billionaire, you probably have a business. And you're not buying your car, your Rolls Royce, outside of your business. You're buying it with your business. And since you're buying it with your business, there's no tax on it. Because they're smart. And that's how they made all that money. By being smart. That went good. Now I'm done. And if anybody says fair tax, I'm going to just say, gotcha, bitch. Go watch my video. Go watch my video and go ahead and try to debate my statements in that video. And you know how long this took me? There are people that have been looking into this for years. That video I just showed you was 11 years old. There have been people that have been looking into this for, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. I figured all this shit out within, 30 fucking minutes of listening to people in a space at 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, yeah, that won't work. That makes no sense. That's not how that works. Nope, wrong again. And you guys wonder why this thing hasn't passed in all these years. It's because of the deep state. And we'll say you're the deep state. Well, I am wearing my ear armor. That's my other side. I'm wearing my ear armor and my vest. So I'm one step up. One step up. All right, and on that note, I'm going to duck out of here, and you guys are going to listen to Bebop, which my VP, JB Rhodes, favorite song, and you're going to listen to Bebop. So I'm going to Bebop out of here. Bye-bye.